Welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads, a podcast all about beer from a West Virginia perspective. I'm Erin McCoy, here with my podcast partner, Charles Bockway.
Thanks, Erin. I think everybody will enjoy this interview as Erin and I talk with a guy who's a true innovator in making and selling beer in our state. We're joined today by the founder, co-owner, and head brewer of Big Timber Brewing in Elkins, West Virginia, Matt Kwasniewski. Matt, we're happy to have you on West Virginia Beer Road.
Well, thank you, Charles and Erin, for having me. I feel like we should add a few more titles to that, and then I could be like Khaleesi in Game of Thrones, you know?
We could.
Well, hey, Matt, welcome back to the show. How are things going for you up in the high mountains of the Mountain State?
Everything's great. There's always issues and problems to solve, but no, we're doing great. We've been staying busy. Yeah.
Well, it's been a while since we last talked with you, and as always, there's a lot going on in the industry, so always ups and downs. But let's start off by talking about some bright spots for Big Timber Brewing. What would you like people to know?
Well, we did have our best year ever last year in volume.
Wow.
Yeah, we did a little over 6,600 barrels. So that definitely kept us busy. There in the busy season of summer, we had no tank space, and we got a lot of fermentation capacity at this point, and it's kind of wild when you can't open a tank up. So that's, great problems.
Yes. Congratulations on those problems. Those are good ones to have.
Yeah, and talking about bright spots, I am drinking a beer here, Erin and I have. It's your Big Timber Hatfield McCoy Trails Pale Ale. This is a dynamite good beer and a great summer drinker too, I'd say. Tell us a little bit about this beer.
Yeah, so it's a pale ale with your traditional C hops. It's kind of that hoppy, happy beer that you can have a few of. We did a collab with the Hatfield McCoy's Trails, and I think there's 12 trails on the label. So we were able to order our labels where they kind of stagger them. So if you buy a 4-pack, it should be 4 different trails, and it gives you a little information about the trail and whatnot. And we put a pale ale because it's kind of a craft beer that most craft consumers enjoy, and it's a good collab beer too, because it's it's hard to promote pale ale. Like most people either want an IPA or they want a blonde. So I like doing pale ales for collabs, because then if people feel connected to whoever we're doing the collab with, they'll drink the beer. I think usually, I hope, and enjoy it. So when you're outdoors, out in the woods, there's nothing better than sitting around a fire at the end of the day and enjoying a few cold beers. So that's what we're about. We want to push fun. I think craft beer got a little too serious for a little while, so it needs to get more back to being something that increases the fun of an experience instead of trying to be the experience all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Matt, I think you hit the spot on this particular one. This Hatfield McCoy Trails Pale Ale. Wow, it's so good and great for an outdoor events and outdoor times in the summer. It's anyway, I don't need to keep talking about it, but I think that's certainly one of the bright spots of Big Timber, in my opinion, over the last 4 or 5 years, are the collaborations you've done with local organizations, sports teams, groups, and things. You've been a leader in that, with your Naylor beers up in the Wheeling area. I mean, there are different ones. I don't want to go through them all, but that's been I'd say another bright spot for your brewery.
Yeah, it's been wild how many of those we've done. I used to be kind of I want to promote our own product. But like I said, I can't be so serious. And if you're a fan of minor league hockey and you want to, I'll try the licensed beer, or, especially with the WVU being a licensed craft beer. The more of those we can do, I'm if that's what people want, we're kind of pleased. So.
do the WVU beers, do they have a long shelf life? I don't mean actual shelf life, but I mean a staying power as far as popularity. I know when they came out, they did very well for you guys. And I don't know. Of course, WVU signed up other people now also doing beer for them, which I don't quite understand why they went out of state to do that. But hey, I guess that's their business. But yes. And any thoughts on how well those beers continue to sell?
Oh, you definitely see movement with how the Athletics perform. I mean, that's maybe kind of crazy, but I mean, at the same time, I completely understand it. It's like, yeah, let's, what a better way to like watch the game and support the team than the beer that we pay licensing on it. So I'm guessing it helps NIL and the Athletics. So
yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about before we get off this subject, and we'll end this collaboration stuff here, but that mountain beer, tell me about that particular product and how it's working, because I know it's fairly new, or like a year old maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, it's almost a year old. No, but that's another session kind of pale ale is what we describe it as. So it's a little lighter than like the Hatfield McCoy you're drinking. We're actually we're gonna update it a little bit, make it we do Timber Cutter. That's a very popular in the tap rooms. It's 4% session IPA, and we're gonna try
that's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, we're gonna try to merge the two. Just pale ales, like usually like taproom customers, they're looking for hazies or sour, some big punchy flavors. So it's like right now we have basically 3 pale ales out. So we're going to merge those two and make mountain beer gluten reduced and kind of make the hop profile a little more punchy. So I'm excited for that. But it'll be a very similar to what it was. But
but just an easy drinking, quaffable beer for a good sports day.
Yeah, and we've noticed that having like a gluten reduced hoppy beer in the tap rooms really help. A lot of people look for it. Like we always have a seltzer that's gluten free, but there's a lot of beer drinkers that would prefer to take the gluten over the gluten free seltzer.
So with your gluten-free products, for the beers anyway, do you use the enzymes to get to that, or how do you make a gluten-free?
Yeah, so we use like a alpha amylase derived enzyme that just ferments everything. And I think it was like a side effect of what the enzyme was supposed to do, but it does drop it. We send it off to get tested. It's below like 1 part per million. That's what they test it to. So
that's good.
We it on site, so we have to send it to White Labs and have them do it.
Well, here we are already deep into summer, into the summer calendar, that is. What are Big Timber's best performing summertime beers? We may have already talked about some of them, but what haven't we talked about?
So it seems like the sour series that we do kicks up in the summer. Key Lime's out and around right now. This Friday, I know that probably won't coincide with the podcast release, but Pina Colada will be getting released soon. So that we always move through those, and it's nice to have that little tartness in the heat and the salt. Timber Cutter, again, we talked about that, but we're trying to make that more of a year-round thing. Mexican lager is always popular this time.
Yeah.
So that's with our Serranos and lime. And we did Old Gold Lime, which Old Gold is going to be our that's what we're pushing for our light lager name. So Honey Lime was kind of part of it. And then in Maryland, but around here, it's Old Gold Lime. You'll start seeing it more and more. And we do Summer Wheat as our summer seasonal, and that's always a popular seller. So beer sells well in the summer. So
yes. Looking forward to trying out those. Definitely. They all sound fantastic.
Yeah, it does sound like you're loading up the shelves with a lot of labels for summer, but that's a smart move as long as you can find the shelf space to get them out there.
Mhm.
But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I've always viewed you, Matt, as one of the leaders among our West Virginia brewers. And I'd say this has been especially true on the legislative front. In that vein, you recently had a group of state legislators and policymakers visit your brewery. Tell us about how that came about.
Yeah, I guess the legislature does one or two offsite like conferences or not a session, but get-togethers every year just to get people kind of in a different part of the state. So they had their session up at Canaan, and so passing through, I guess whenever they do those offsite sessions, they reach out to small businesses and kind of make a get together. And Brian Brown, he's a lobbyist and works with the legislature, and kind of reached out if we would be willing to do one of those sessions. So then it was good because as much as I would like to try to do more of that, it's always like one of those things that gets pushed down the list of importance. Things jump it all the time. So whenever they reached out that, I could have them at my place of work, I wasn't going to refuse that. And,
Yeah, well, that was nice that they picked Big Timber as one of their places to go. I think that's the first time that the legislative interims have ever been at a brewery. They may have been sometime, but I don't remember. Yeah. Anyway, hey, so how receptive do you find the state leaders, governor, legislature, and all to be, how receptive are they to the needs of our state's brewers?
The most part, the ones I talked to, they seemed legitimately interested in what I had to say, which was great. And I think that's true for a lot of like the elected officials. It's just, the squeaky wheel gets the grease sort of thing. Like,
oh, true.
The more you talk to them, the more you'll be on their mind whenever something comes up, or the more they're willing to help you. And it's no matter what you do, people just get busy, and it's hard to sit there and lobby for yourself. Wow. So, but yeah, I think if you run for office, you're probably out there trying to, help your constituents, I would hope. And I think most of them are. So.
Well, a similar question I have in this vein is, how receptive are our state brewers to really working together on legislation? I mean, I've just asked about, how receptive the legislature is to our needs or to brewers' needs, but really what are you finding as far as our state brewers? Are they always on the, ready to go and ready to work together on legislation?
I mean, for the most part, I do believe that's the case. It's been like a year and a half. We had a bunch of brewers came to our tap room, and we talked about like getting the guild going and doing some of that process. But then we decided to open a second tap room, and haven't done a lot of follow up, honestly, and that's the problem. We all get busy with our day jobs, and
yeah.
I think everybody's always, everybody wants to work in an easier, better business climate. So, and most of us are, at least as a group. I mean, I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but I think, most of our focuses align as to what we would like to see changed. So.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed that the guild hasn't taken off through the years to become more of a full-time idea of meeting and posting, publishing the issues and trying to gain support for, your positions and stuff. I don't know. I mean, it was probably unrealistic on my part to think that little tiny brewers that are just so consumed with just keeping their places open have time to go to meetings and talk about legislation needs and stuff. It's tough.
Yeah, it's just consuming, and you need a a lot of communication, somebody that's willing to take that on. And
Right.
it's, you know, most people don't have a lot more to give. They're giving everything to their own place, and what they have left over, it's
Yeah.
so I mean, I'm optimistic that one of these days it'll happen, but I don't know.
Well, the big discussion nationally is the measured slowdown in overall craft beer sales following several decades of growth. How do you see this sales climate affecting beer sales at our small West Virginia craft brewers?
I think we're a little insulated as a state and as an industry. Like, that's, like I was just saying, like, we're all busy doing our own thing. There's not a lot of like stepping on each other's toes. I mean, you're kind of small state. We're all spaced out for the most part. I mean, there's some concentrations, but it's you don't ever want to be complacent. It wasn't always going to be sunshine and rainbows in this industry. I mean, I think there were some people that thought that, and they were probably the first ones out the door. But just like, paying attention. You don't want to be playing scared either. Like, in an industry, and like I said, again, we got to keep it fun. If I felt like, when I got started in the industry and really into beer in like 2010, 11, 12, it felt like every time you went to a brewery, your mind was kind of blown. I don't know. There's new flavors and whatnot. So I think it's hard to keep that train rolling, but now I think you can at least make other things fun, make beer kind of take a little bit of a backseat to just, socializing. And we pay a lot of attention to, because this is like all we do. Like, my wife and I, Ashley, like, this is all of our income is derived from Big Timber. We don't have a fallback really. So this is.
Oh, Matt, I didn't know you don't have a big trust fund. Oh my God.
I got a big loan, but that's, I got to pay on that. So, I mean, that's, so we do stay really focused on it, but I don't think it's not all gloomy skies. I think, there's always opportunity. You just got to look for it.
Sure.
Yeah. I think our small brewers have been a bit kind of like you were alluding to, a bit protected from the sales downturn in the national markets. I mean, a lot of those brands that are falling in other states are the same ones that are selling here and not selling as well as they used to. But our local brewers, our West Virginia brewers, a lot of them are doing pretty daggone well. I don't think we've ever been oversaturated with the local beer like they have in some of the big metro markets around the surrounding states, where they had maybe just too much and they just were making too much beer locally to be able to sell it. But we haven't had that problem.
Yeah, I think there's nobody here, I don't think, was really like blow up as fast as you can and grow to sell. Like,
right.
We all were like in it. We love making beers. So that was, I think, again, I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but I feel like for the most part, that's how it is. It's people that got into it. They're not over there seeing an opportunity and dollar signs. It's just like, this is what I want to do with my life. So.
Yeah, in this state too is not one that the out-of-state brewers, or the small out-of-state brewers, that I shouldn't say small relative to the big guys like Miller and Coors and InBev and all that. But our smaller guys, the craft brewers out in other states, even in the surrounding states, weren't so quick to come in here and try to push lots of their beer in here either. So it maybe left a little bit of an opportunity for our small local brewers to sell beer. This is a tough state to sell in. I mean, it's 20 miles between accounts. It's not like there's a block with 40 bars on it. We just don't have that.
I think that kind of basically you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's a small market, and you're like, oh, that's some people might say that's like easy to handle, but it's not an easy market because accounts are far apart, people are far apart. There's a lot of bad roads. There's, distributors that need to. I mean,
It
I
sounds
like
so
that,
awesome.
but if you're delivering something, you don't want to drive bad roads all day. So.
Well, and certainly we've had our turnover. We've, like everywhere, these are small businesses. Small businesses have turnover. Small breweries are no different. They're another kind of a small business. I think in general, small brewers tend to have less turnover than general small businesses. Well, Matt, what is your view on that kind of turnover in general, that breweries are going to come and go?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I was saying before, it's not always, if you think it's always going to be sunshine and rainbows, like everything's cyclical. Like, you gotta realize that you can't just make beer and make money. Like, there's going to be competition. Somebody's going to move in, you got to work accounts, you got to talk to people, keeping staff, it's very like everything's very complex, and if it was simple, it'd be nice if it was simple to make money, but really isn't. Yeah, I think the cost of entry also there for a while was what stifled some of the growth, and then as it was easier to access equipment and buy equipment, then more people got into it. But there are easier ways to make money than brewing beer, in my opinion. But I don't know. I could be biased, but I think it's you got to be passionate about it, I think, to really like do well in it. So.
Yeah, and I'm one that really sees positive aspects to this cycle of some breweries closing, some breweries opening. I mean, and it's like any kind of small business sector. It weeds out the weaker businesses. It's not all bad. The less efficient people don't make it, or the poorer quality people don't make it. It's good that they weed them out, and the people that survive are better for it and probably learn how to do better because their neighbor did go out of business. And that change is inevitable, and trends in restaurant and food have always been with us. And I kind of, I just kind of laugh sometimes when I see some of these articles that come out. Oh, craft beer's losing business or dropping. It's this and that, and I'm thinking, holy cow! You don't expect any industry sector to always be going up at double-digit growth every year. It's just not going to happen, and I mean it's kind of silly. So I don't. When I talk to our local brewers like you and others here, like where we are here in Charleston, and I see people saying, I've had our best year ever, well, yeah, you're a good business. And that doesn't mean that there's a problem in our industry because your brewery down the road somewhere happened to close. I mean, that's, it's just the way it is, isn't it? That's business.
Yeah. I mean, if you get in the brewing business because you like drinking beer, like, I would be surprised if you thrived. It's like, yeah, like you alluded to restaurants. If you think you make a good pizza, that's great and all, but do you want to make pizza forever?
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that's the question that a lot of people don't ask. And, that's, so again, like I said, like, because this is what Ashley and I do, and like our whole focus is on this, we try to, seeing the downturn can be like scary, but at the same time, it's like, well, got to try to do better, make improvements. And I think when craft beer was booming too, that was one great thing. It's consumable. So you could go over and try something that you heard about and then be like, oh, wow, this is going to change my world. I need to try to copy this, and that's the fun part of it. And I think at this point too, it's like, well, you don't want to lose any customers. So you're always focused on putting out the best product. So,
yeah.
So that's, our goal.
Well, it's one of the things that I think you got to have are not only people that are good, skillful brewers who can make good beer, because they've got to be good business people. They've got to know how to sell beer and hire a staff and pay a staff and, maintain all that kind of things. It's not just making good beer. I mean, that's not the key to success. I mean, that's certainly one of the keys to success, but that's not the only one for sure.
Oh, I was just thinking like, yeah, I mean, as brewers, I think you're usually a type A person, sort of. You like control. You want things to be just so, and that doesn't always, convert to working well with others. I think a lot of brewers don't like working with others. It's part of like, I want to be up in the brew house and control my work. But at the same time, if you give a little bit up, you can get a lot in return, in like collaboration with, for me, like my employees or, coworkers. Like, we got a lot of brewing knowledge up on the brew house. So it's, sometimes you think you got a good idea, and then you can be like, oh yeah, we need to look out for this. Where it's all about, with a team, you got to be able to communicate. So I think that's key.
Well, in the Charleston region, our brewery tap rooms seem to be doing okay, but we're struggling with our retail beer sales channels. Our package stores that feature craft beer have been closing, not because of beer financial problems, but drug financial problems, in that the two of our largest chains were actually pharmacy stores, and they both closed in the last year. It's really hurt our craft beer availability here in the Charleston area, and the variety of our local brewery brands, it just kind of in general. Has Big Timber been impacted by these closings in the Charleston Huntington markets?
Yeah, I think we have, definitely, not unlike IPA sales, but like our short run limited releases, it does seem, if we made 50 cases of a product, like Charleston would take 20 and they would be gone. But now they take 20, and sometimes we're like, why are they still there? And it's like working with and because their automatic accounts kind of aren't there. So it's we got to work with our distribution partners and like try to find new avenues for them. But I mean, it's weird. I got to be thankful for our market too currently, because like Walmart and Kroger are two biggest off-premise retailers. And over Father's Day, we went over to Shenandoah National Park so I can haul the kids around on the trails. But it was a great time. But we went into a Walmart, I think 2 different Walmarts actually we stopped at. And, on the beer cooler, they have like craft beer or local beer. The local section was like not there. And there's some big brewers over there. You didn't see any Three Notched or Star Hill. I was just kind of blown away that, and I was like, a lot of our West Virginia stores, they have 4 or 5 of our products, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm hoping that's not coming down the line, but it's just making sure our product keeps moving in those areas. When we were up in the park, all they had basically up there was craft, and everybody was having a beer once they came off trail, it seemed. So it looked like craft was doing great in the park. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah, I've been looking at the Walmarts here in our area. I kind of try to monitor what they're selling, and I've seen for sure a shrinkage of shelf space for craft in general. Regional craft, national craft brands. But our West Virginia section, what little section it is, it's tiny, but it hasn't seemed to have shrunk. You guys, Big Timber, Greenbrier Valley are still, very present. Now, it's probably extremely hard for other guys to get in there because they're not expanding the space. But
yeah, and I don't know if that's like, in Virginia area, they probably have like Total Wines, but still I've heard those sections have shrunk. But here, the beer stores are Kroger, Walmart,
Well, in West Virginia, there's certainly beyond Kroger and Walmart, some of the other grocery stores either are more localized or sections of the state or something. Then they certainly sell some craft as well. Smaller chains like we have Piggly Wiggly here, and they'll have a craft section. But it's not huge. Certainly their beer sections are not huge in general, but it's just that you guys, fortunate for Big Timber, you're in all these stores. You tend to get incredibly good distribution among, West Virginia craft brewers, mainly because you've worked on it for years, I'm guessing. I mean, you've done a good job.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's, like our sales manager, Jared, he handles a lot of that, and they want a lot of communication and spreadsheets and stuff. So but you got to take the time and work it. And it's a huge part of our sales. So it matters. Like it's a big part of our business. So those stores, they want to see product move. So we want to make sure we're putting something out there that people want. So it's not easy. The margins are not great, but the good thing is there's a lot of volume. So if you can work it, it keeps the brew house busy, the brew deck. So we'll get a refill here.
Get a refill. Hey, and we're going to get
yes.
We're going to get a beer too.
Yeah, got the wild and hazy.
So yeah, so we're both pouring beers here, more Big Timber beers. Why don't you talk for a minute about your wild and hazy beer there?
So wild and hazy is kind of a collab with the state parks. So we kind of launched this probably in April or May. So we're going to try to run it through the end of the year. But it's a hazy IPA. My Holly River shirt on, representing the parks. But if you haven't been out to West Virginia State Park, or you haven't been there recently, you should get out there. So they're great, and it's a great way to unwind. One of my favorite ways. So we take the kids out pretty often, play in the woods, get out of cell service. So
Nice.
Well, that's nice. And Aaron and I just cracked open one of your big award-winning beers. We're going to talk more about it before we get further along. But I just wanted to mention that we're drinking Big Timber Porter right now, and we'll talk about it. Like I say, it's down the road here. First, want to get into a couple other topics. One thing that we're seeing in our region of the state, and we're, just for the record, we're in different regions of the state. You're up in the central high mountain areas, and we're down in southern West Virginia. But what I call the brewery taproom model definitely appears to be the more attractive and maybe profitable part of the craft beer business right now. And by that, I mean the breweries that are opening tap rooms in different parts of the state. You guys have done it, and it's just seems to be something that they're making money in, and it's smart. But so I'd just like to hear your opinion on how your Elkins tap room's doing, and is it maintaining its sales volumes and stuff?
Yeah, no, our tap rooms have done great. Elkins has done really good. I mean, we put a lot of heart and soul into that place. But yeah, sales have been maintaining. I think volume is actually up. Sales might be down a little bit. I think that's just like merchandise, maybe, which that's always a juggle, keeping it what people want. And I don't think the brewery T-shirt is as popular as it was, 5 years ago, but we still sell a lot of shirts and hats and whatnot. So, but as far as beer sales, our tap room does really well. I actually can speak a lot more to that. She handles more of the retail front. I more handle the production and whole or kind of overall sort of footprint on that. But it's margins are good in tap rooms, but it's definitely not. It's as far as a small brewery, and we're fortunate in the state, we can have a tap room, have a production brewery, run them all together, and it diversifies the business model where it's hard to make a profit with economies of scale, how they are even at like this size, like our size of a brewery. But with a tap room, you got a lot more. Your margins are a lot better because you're selling it direct. But at the same time, it's running a tap room similar to running a bar. It's you got the public front, you're always trying to please, and it's like sometimes you can just like never turn it off, and you got to really communicate on that. And I'm glad that Ashley handles that. I do not desire that side of the work.
Spoken like a true brewer, yeah. Hey, yeah, but no, that is true. You get the public interface at your tap room. That's where you really get the face-to-face with your customer. And those conversations and that sampling that takes place at the tap room really helps. It extends out to the retail side.
There's no better marketing. Don't get me wrong. Like a tap room, like if you open a brewery without a tap room, you got to be like, you got to have a lot of money. Like, I mean, it's wild, but yeah, it's yeah. Sorry, I hope I didn't tick anyone off, but I'm like, the tap room, like, you're not going to get any better marketing. Customers are, your loyal customers are excited to be able to come, visit the mothership or whatnot. And, so we try to promote it. Again, the big thing is keeping it fun. We've had, I feel like this year we're going to have, bigger, like more music on site, and we've had a lot of food trucks. And so it's been really good.
Yeah. And I noticed recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, last year, I guess it was, that you guys opened your second tap room over in Davis, West Virginia, not awfully far from Elkins, your home base. But how's that doing for you?
Yeah, so Davis Tap Room's doing great. It's just a little over a year old. It was Memorial Day weekend, I think it turned a year. But if you've been to Davis, especially on the weekend, Davis is a happening little town. Like, I mean, there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people that, that's their escape from the city or whatnot. So, but it's a town of 600-700. Same with Thomas. So there's definitely an adjustment for us because Elkins isn't huge, but there's a decent amount, probably 15,000-20,000 people close to. I think the city itself is 7,000, but there's a lot of little towns, kind of little metro area. But so like even our weeknights are pretty busy. So we're getting used to like, Wednesday, Thursday can be really quiet in Davis. Sometimes it can be really busy depending on what's going on. And especially like we're getting ready because 4th of July is huge up in Davis. So it's going to be a big weekend up there. But they always, like from Memorial Day through July 4th, there's always something going on in Davis. So.
Well, I know when you decided to start the Davis Tap Room and add that to your portfolio, you wanted to have a place that was fairly close to Elkins so that you could keep watch and kind of manage it better. If it was halfway across the state, it'd be a different story. But I just wondered, though, that apparently has worked fine for you. Are you looking at other locations now for future tap rooms?
I would say no is the like short answer.
Are you sure about that?
Actually spends a ton of time in Davis, and it's is like I was saying, how brewers like control over the beer experience. I think like Ashley likes making sure the retail experience is what she thinks people want. So she's up there a lot. So we don't, and we have 4 kids, the youngest 6 months. It keeps us busy. So, and she'll be up there this weekend. So it stretches us. We're stretched a little thin. I feel sometimes, but at the same time, we try to remain flexible and not say absolutely not. That's what
Okay.
happened. There was a great opportunity, and we were like, man, everything seems to kind of fall in place. So, it's still not easy, but it turned out great. So I think that's how we try to like not refuse a great opportunity when we see one. So I think eventually maybe we'll get there, but it's really busy right now. We're stretched a little, so.
Yeah, you
So
got to take your time. It's got to be comfortable for what your business model is, that's for sure. And I'll tell you, I don't think either Aaron or I have been to the Davis Tap Room, but I've heard from people who have. It's a very nice place. They said it's just very comfortable and attractive. And certainly, I put a plug in for the Elkins Tap Room for any of our listeners who haven't been to the Elkins Tap Room. That is a stellar, good looking, beautiful facility. I mean, and it features all West Virginia products, the woods. I forget how many woods are in there that are beautiful, beautiful. The walls and the ceilings and the floors, all West Virginia hardwoods. It's amazing and different kinds. And I don't know, you guys have just done a great job. Of course, what should Big Timber have except a wonderful wooden building with wooden features all over it?
yeah. Well, we always kind of joke. We're like, yeah, I think there's that tap room took a little bit too big of a chunk out of us, but it's got a lot of us in it, and we're never gonna, build another tap room to that scale, I guess. But it's we're glad it's there. I'm glad it's built. It was a lot of work, but it is what we dreamed it would be. So that's cool.
Yeah, I congratulate you on that. I mean, I think it's worked out so well. It's a beautiful place. Anyway, and I don't know if this is anything or not, but I just noticed on the West Virginia Alcohol Beverage Administration newswire that something about Big Timber maybe changing some of the owners in its retail business side. What's that about? Anything?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of glad you brought it up. No, it's simply Ashley and I becoming 50-50 partners. This when we came up with the idea, it wasn't long after we started dating, like, we should open a brewery, and I had to convince her to move back to my hometown and to do it. But whenever we started it, and then partners came on, it was all based on what kind of fiscal resources we could put into the company. And then when we consolidated partnership, we had some terms to deal with. So now it's just Ashley and I becoming 50-50 partners. And so that's all that was.
Well, I congratulate you on getting over that little hurdle, because Ashley certainly adds so much to your business operation and success. And it's great that you guys are 50-50 partners in that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I think when we incorporated, we were engaged, and before we sold beer, we were married. I think in the court of law, it's 50-50, but
right. Yeah.
We're putting it on paper so I didn't realize it got out there, and I started getting some questions, and I was like, what the heck's going on? So, but yeah, so I think because all the licenses are fiscal year July 1st, like everything should be public then. I was surprised that I got pushed out there beforehand. So I was like, where are people getting this information? But yeah.
I'll leave it to the state to, either they do tell you too much or they don't tell you anything. It's one or the other.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, just put it out there and not leave people hanging. But yeah, it's just us being 50-50 partners.
Well, Matt, do you see tap room profitability closely linked to differences in self-distributing brewers versus those who use beer distributors? For example, Short Story, who is a direct distributor, might be selling the majority of his beer through its chain of tap rooms, which has to impact profitability. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you run all tap room, absolutely, like the way Short Story's doing it, but we were kind of talking about like for Ashley running the tap rooms, it's like you're customer facing all the time. You're almost like never off. You're always planning events, dealing with issues people come about and whatnot. Where as far as production, like I really like production, but it's margins are thin. You got to make sure your product's like really on point, because you don't have somebody with a vested interest in, the customer gets it, and if it's bad, they're going to be like, I'm going to buy something else next time. Where at least you might have an employee that can be like, hey, something seems off with this, and then you switch out the keg. So you got a little security there, but at the same time, you can move a lot more. With distribution, like we have to work with our distribution partners. They sell a lot of other products too. So we really got to make sure that we remind them, like, sell our product. And they usually do a good job. Like when we opened Davis, we started self distribution when we opened years ago, just to see who was good in the market. And then whenever we opened Davis, we talked with Northern Eagle, our distribution partner in the area. And we still had a few accounts we self-distributed to, but they let us like take over self-distribution of that tap room. And it works out. It's a give and take. They're kind of different business models. I like our business model because it feels diversified. And like if something happened in a tap room or a bunch of bartenders decided to leave at one time, there's a lot of problems on that side I don't deal with. So we're distribution. It's kind of like you can plan it. And
much more predictable.
Yeah, for me, for my personality, that works well. Again, it's a different business model, and our plan in Davis is always to we wanted to put in our pilot system. I'd like to. I don't want to open tap rooms just for tap rooms per se. I'd like to make sure they're breweries if we do open a tap room. But right now, Davis is a tap room. Or there's no beer production on site.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a decision each brewery has to make at each location that they may open. And, sometimes, either way seems to probably have its pluses and minuses, But, well, when we're looking here in downtown Charleston, where, Aaron and I hang out most of our times anyway, here having a beer, it seems that we're actually having a little boom in beer sales in downtown Charleston. We've got new breweries that have opened, a little section. It's kind of like that idea of the dynamic. If you only have one brewery in town, you don't have any as far as drawing a lot of people into town. If you have 4 or 5, then it's like a district, and it draws lots of people in. It seems to be what's happening here, and they seem to be doing very well. So I'm really wondering, because I think we're also having drops in sales for like regional and national craft brands. I mean, the distributors will tell me that, they haven't been doing all that well just in general craft beer, but local craft beer, the guys that have the local tap rooms are doing very well. Their sales are up. So I think this hyper local thing, I'm just wondering, do you see statewide, because I mean, you guys sell around, do you see a lot of hyper local dynamic there that people want to have, that people want to support their local breweries? Does that seem to be a factor?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like that's what grew the craft beer movement, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I think we got away from promoting that for a long time. I do think like the tap room is still the best marketing for your brewery and for craft beer in general. In Elkins, we now have Fox Hops. Brewstol is back open. He's not brewing yet, but he's serving beer. And, as a plug for Elkins, like downtown Elkins is a really great, like little half-mile strip. We got a bunch of good restaurants and bars. They opened the new hotel. They're building a convention center in town that's supposed to open later in July or this month, I'm guessing. It's nice to see that kind of concentration happening. And I think down on Brewers Row in Charleston, that's a great thing because people, if you're drinking, you'd like to be staying close by and be able to, check out a few different places. And, especially if you're staying a couple nights, then maybe you'll go back to your favorites the next night. And I think it's when people got in, I think in markets where it got saturated, it got a lot of like brewery affiliated people might, dog on someone else or what. I think staying hyper local, that's always going to drive breweries. I think breweries our size are kind of the ones that are getting axed a lot. But fortunately, our market's different. And I think we still have a lot of opportunity at our size in our market.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Glad that your brewery health, financial health is strong. That's super here.
Well, Matt, I'm always curious in sales differences among beer styles. One of the strengths of the craft beer market is that brewers can and do always come out with new beers in different styles or even tweak the styles that they already make to follow industry trends and changes in the market. So what is a beer in your lineup that you have tweaked to update its flavor profile and maybe bring it more in line with the public's changing taste? And how did it work once you did that?
I mean, at this point, I think the better question or the easier question would be which ones haven't.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's always, I'm talking about the team, the back of the house team, the production team. We're always our hardest critics, or try to be, hopefully. So we're always like, what could we do better with this? Our hazies there started dropping clear a little bit. So we've really focused on trying to figure out why we've had that issue. And we're in the middle of a ton of changes with that. We've been trying to make like lager, and most of our lagers trying to find the perfect lager. And we've gone to a lot of continental, like we buy like European pills on those. Just I think domestic pills or domestic grain in general really help punch like fruit flavors. I think that's why IPAs are probably actually better with North American malts. While we've been using some continental grains because they're not as like, if green was a flavor, kind of like chlorophyll, like punchy. So they're more like sweet and bready. So we've been always trying to tweak. I wish that's like all I had to do is sit there and come up with ideas. I'd probably drive everybody mad though. So
that's the fun part for you, is tweaking and changing things then.
Well, I will second your discussion on the tweaks you've made to lager. I think it's definitely come in the right direction. That beer is so nice now.
I feel like it's not there yet, but I think I'm hoping by the end of the year. I think I probably would have said that last year, but
well, to continue this, maybe wrap up this discussion of beer styles. I know it's got to frustrate you or any brewer when people are always coming into the pub and saying, "Oh, do you have this? Do you have that? Well, you don't make this." I mean, it's like they want something you don't have, and of course, that gives you ideas about you get a lot of requests for some kind of particular style that you don't make. Maybe you should. So my question really is, what's the process at Big Timber you go through when deciding to offer a new beer? Whether it's a core line extension or maybe just another seasonal.
It's I would say the best times are whenever it's a real good discussion because, um, sometimes like I just want to like see if we can like nail a flavor sort of. And some people find that, it's not like necessarily appetizing. It's just a flavor. But I do think the best times is like we talk with our beer tenders and say like, hey, what's been selling? What have people asked for? Sometimes it's a beer we did once, and it's like I really want to try to do this better. So it's I do think the best sales are whenever it's a collaboration. And a lot of times we rely on our sales guys to like tell us what is coming down the line or what they've seen in the market that's selling. It's basically all over the place, but it's I feel like 5 years ago, because there was so much innovation and change in the craft beer, it was what's new out there. Now I feel like it's like a lot of people have been asking about this, and it's kind of going back to old styles or different old beers and just reformulating or making changes.
Matt, we hear that Big Timber's success in selling beer has produced a little crowded house, so to speak, in your production brewery. Who would have guessed that when you guys build it, that you'd already be running out of space? Are you looking at any plans to enlarge the brewery or maybe build a whole new building?
The brewery's a little crowded, which I think whenever we got started we sold our first beer in 2014, but we had moved back and started on the plans like end of 2011. And at that time, it was like a lot of places were doubling every year. So it was just like, oh, everything's going to explode. But we always tried to grow with what we could handle. So even though we got a lot of full tanks, I mean, that's how I want to keep it. I don't want to have a bunch of empty stainless. So we're not really looking at that. I mean, there's a lot of auctions these days. There's a lot more closures, and I interned out at Glacier Brewing in Montana, and my old boss out there, he worked at a big brewery. He was from Colorado. Kind of back in the late 90s when there was the first it was more a tap room or a brew pub bust, but he was at like a 30,000 barrel brewery. And he's like, yeah, they just scrapped everything and cut it up. So I'm like, if we find a great deal on a really nice brew house, we might look into it. But right now, I mean, we're not willing to make that kind of investment, I would say. If I can find a bargain somewhere, maybe. Try not to like get hyper focused on things, because if I do that, there's a problem. Like my beer hobby got out of hand.
Well, before we close this podcast, is there anything else that you would like to have our listeners know about things coming up at Big Timber Brewing for the summer?
Yeah, summer. I mean, at least in town here up in Elkins, if you make it up, there's Augusta Festival. We always partner with them. They're going to do some stuff downtown. It's like Appalachian folk arts. That's great. I think our music lineup's going to be good. We're thinking of something big for Forest Festival. Up in Davis, we're just trying to have food trucks on hand for big weekends. And then as far as statewide in the market, like hazies have been moving really well, and we're just trying to make great beer better. I don't see making huge strides anywhere, but it's just trying to improve our product, improve our customers' experience with the products.
Well, that's good. Nice summer ahead for all of us West Virginia brewers. We got a bunch of festivals coming up, and I know you guys will be at these festivals. And so support your local beer festivals, folks. And Oh, one thing before we get out of here. Aaron and I just cracked open the Big Timber Porter. I think I mentioned earlier, but man, I'm just drinking it now. It's like really something else. This is a beer that has won medals at national competitions. You guys, that's one you probably haven't tweaked a lot, I don't think, through the years. It's, yeah. So just give a quick little summary of what keeps this beer wonderful.
I mean, like, I think a big thing is like when you're dealing with malts and hops and water profiles and yeast, the whole goal is to strike lightning in a bottle. And I feel like for a porter, we got pretty lucky with that recipe. And yeah, we don't touch it too much. And I think that beer gets like really starts hitting its peak at about 6 months old, which we got a 6 month like Best Buy on there. So when it gets close to Best Buy date, that's my ideal time on that beer. But yeah, it's done well for us. I'm really happy it gets the respect that we thought it could get, and we're trying to elevate our other beers to that level. So,
well, that's a great goal, and I wish you well in that. Well,
thank
Matt, you may have heard or seen word that Aaron and I are ending our run as hosts of the West Virginia Beer Roads podcast. It's true. We're coming to the end of the beer road, so to speak.
Well, that is true. And it's been very enjoyable over the past 7 years, helping our West Virginia craft beer fans keep up to date with our craft brewers around the state.
And Matt, you've been a guest, you and Ashley too, at times, been a guest on the podcast 3 or 4 times, or probably 4 times. I don't remember exactly, but several times anyway. And it's always been enjoyable to have you on. It's been great getting to know you and Ashley and your whole team, your brewers, marketers. You know, you don't turn over your staff a lot. I mean, at that level anyway. As people we've gotten to know and watch through the years. You guys have accomplished so much to help establish West Virginia's craft brewing industry as a legitimate force throughout the state, and also nationally with your medal-winning flurry at the Great American Beer Festival and World Beer Cup, those brewing competitions. I mean, you've done it. It doesn't really get any better than that, and you make us proud. I know you'll continue to thrive and continue to set high standards among our West Virginia brewers. And I'll end this by just wishing you and Big Timber Brewing the best in the future.
It's hard to follow that, but it certainly has been kind of a wild ride. And, the amount of knowledge and just friends and family and information along the way has been fantastic. And I've definitely really enjoyed getting to know you and your family and your business. And I look forward to enjoying more of your beer.
Absolutely.
So good luck.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, it's really kind of sad news for us. You did do so much to kind of like bring us together. Like we said, our country roads connect us, beer roads connect us in the industry and our customers. And so wish you best on your next endeavor, and hopefully we can have a beer sometime.
This brings us to the close of another podcast. Remember, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast host. Thank you for listening to West Virginia Beer Roads.
West Virginia Beer Roads is a production of BrilliantStream.com.